Well, hello everybody. Blair Nightingale here, coming at you. I am enjoying the holiday weekend out here in beautiful Redding, California. Coming at you guys from the West Coast. Thanks so much for being on, everybody. Appreciate you. This is Market Monday. Market Monday, finishing out the month of November. Had our options preview last week. Remember, I always say this, I always will say this. If you've missed anything that I talk about, because I reference on here a lot things, topics that we covered in the past here on Market Monday. We've got 2 years of episodes, 2 years of episodes cataloged on YouTube for you. You put all those, string all those together, and there's quite a lot of information for you to know how to trade stocks. Obviously, inside our programs is really where the magic happens here at Tradeway, because that's where we really dive into the system that we use. That's where we really work one-on-one with students, coaching, doing our live market trainings, all that kind of stuff. But right here in Market Monday is an awesome opportunity for you and me to get together. You can ask me questions, whatever it is that you would like to ask. You can do that here. We're going to look at some charts specifically today. We're going to dive in, do some practice. And as I said, we cover a lot of concepts here on this program. So again, you string them all together and you got quite a bit of content. Now that's coming at you Monday nights. We've also had our Stock Talk Thursdays on Thursday, as well as a Tip Tuesday and a Word Wednesday. So we're doing a lot of stuff here on YouTube. That said, if you missed the options preview last week, I highly recommend go ahead, go back, and watch the options preview. If you'd like to know more about options, if you're not even sure what an option is, if I say to you, hey, options are really cool, and you go, why should I why should I care about options? What makes them so cool? Why should I care? If you watch that episode, we answer those questions for you. And we do it because they are hugely beneficial for so many of our students who want to have more opportunities in the market, maybe are not starting with such a big account, or no matter what the size of your account is, you want to have more leverage, you can use options for that. Okay, so that's last week's episode. This week's episode is going to be in a few sections. All right, I want to get very practical with everybody today. So we're going to take a little bit of time. We're going to look at the stock market. We had a pretty big day down last week. The market's being closed on Thursday for the holiday, Thanksgiving, and then observing a half day on Friday. We saw a pretty significant drop. Big news item out there right now. This new Omicron, if I'm even saying that right, variant that the market took concern with on Friday. So I want to talk about that for a second, specifically regarding the S&P 500. And then I want to talk a little bit about paper trading and do some practice with you guys, okay? So first things first, you'll notice a couple of things here. Now at Tradeway, one of the main things we do is understand what is the ultimate direction of the market as a whole. We are not simply just buying stocks when we think we should buy an individual stock, right? No matter what it is. Remember that we're using a trading skill set, right? Trading disciplines, trading skill set. Not the same as a long-term buy and hold, okay? Not the same. So with that in mind, we do watch the market quite a bit. Well, you guys have seen me post this so many times now, but for those friends out there who maybe haven't seen this or haven't seen it in a little while, you know, the S&P is in a pretty consistent pattern through here, okay? You'll even notice that when it broke out of the pattern, what used to be resistance then just became support. It just started the same pattern. It just did it at a higher level, right? And then it broke down, came back into the range, and started to repeat that same pattern again, okay? In here, we had a drop. What happened? It pulled up. And instead of, as I just mentioned here, old resistance becoming new support, what happened in here? Right? Old support had the potential. Of course, we didn't know, right? This isn't about a crystal ball. That's one of the things I want to help set you guys free from, is this idea that you need to know what's going to happen in the market, or somehow, somewhere, there's an expert and he can tell you what the market's going to do. And if you could just get that expert to tell you what they're doing, then you could know the future of the market. Well, I can tell you that the professionals don't know the future any more than you do, but they do know how the market behaves. They do know how to control themselves. They do know how to manage risk, and they do know what the market is more likely to do. That's a very important distinction. What the market is more likely to do. Well, coming into here, it's possible, right? It's always possible, but it's more so probable that it might have used old support as new resistance. And of course, that is exactly what it did. Okay. So it comes back into the range, makes a high. I want you to catch this. Makes a high. What happens here? It hits the same high, right? It didn't just hit a certain price and just stop, right? For those of you that are beginners or new to this is how we really go, holy smokes, there's a way to really make sense of this. Now, you may not understand all of it yet, right? I gather that you don't. That makes sense. If it's new to you, then why would you? But you can see that the chart helps us understand the behavior of the market. Now, even though we can't know the future, we can identify what is more likely to happen. For those of you who are experienced, this is always a good reminder, just getting back to simply what is happening with the price. What did it do? It made a high, it went down, it tried to break that high, but it failed. So even in these 2 days here, which were at support, right? We thought, well, it's bouncing at support. That's good, but it's not showing us a lot of strength. Okay. We would not have seen this coming, right? There's just no way we could have. We didn't know there was going to be a scare of another lockdown based on this variant. Now, some of you may have said, Blair, I anticipate that there's going to be an endless amount of variants, and that wasn't a surprise to you. All right. I tip my hat to you on that for sure. We could have had some anticipation of that because it certainly seems like that's the way things are going. But strictly speaking, with the S&P 500, yeah, we wouldn't have known that was going to have a big day, about 110 points drop, but still staying above the 50-day moving average. And I want to just highlight that. If I could just give you guys a little tip today, right? Anytime the market is still above the 50-day moving average, no matter what the news says, hey, it may get ugly. It may be really bearish. It may be dropping. You may need to protect your assets. Those are conversations we can always have. We want to know, how do we manage risk? That's something we talk about a lot more in the program. But just to give you this one for today, if it's above the 50-day moving average, chances are things are not that bad yet. Not yet. Now, this is really, if it was this day here, that's 47.18, down to the 50-day moving average there, that's about 120 points. Or excuse me, 220 points. I mean, a 220 point drop, if that happened in one day, all right, I'm being extreme here, that's a cause for concern, despite the fact that it's above the 50-day moving average. But generally speaking, barring some of those extreme circumstances, when I check the market on Friday and go, okay, we're above the 50-day moving average still, it still says to me that there's still a good amount, at least at the moment, there's still a good amount of stability here in this market. Weakness for sure, but some stability. Today, getting the gap up, right? Not as afraid of this variant today after we've had some, Saturday, Sunday time to chew on it as the market, the news, and we see the bounce up. However, here's where I want to land today on this. Where are we now? We are back at old support. Now, is old support going to become new resistance? It certainly can. I never get on here, neither do any of the other Tradeway coaches, and start to make predictions. Now, we could say, here's what I think is going to happen. But it's better to say, here's what I think is more likely based on my skill set. Here's what's more likely. And most importantly, here is how I am managing my risk as a result of that. Now, that doesn't mean taking no risk, but it does mean managing my risk based on what my skill set tells me. And what my skill set tells me today is that even though today was a big day up, we got the gap. Now, we wouldn't have got the movement on that, right? If you were in a stock that gapped like that, remember, this is the S&P 500. This is the index. You know, there was no opportunity to get in near the 50-day if this was the case, right? Unless you took an enormous, in my opinion, it is just my opinion, amount of risk on Friday, or I should say quite a bit of risk on Friday, because it wasn't really at the 50-day, and there was a lot of reason why it could have just kept on going down and plowed right through the 50-day. If you took a very small amount of risk and said, yeah, I might lose it, but I'm okay with that, okay? If that's really the case, then I could see some folks maybe did something around that point, being that it was at least close to the 50-day. But my main point being, it gaps up today, in a lot of cases past buy points, and looks to potentially use that old support as new resistance. Now, tomorrow, it's going to do one of three things, right? What three things can it do, Blair? It can do one of three things. It can chop sideways, right? Indecisive. Ugh. The market doesn't know. Do we really want to push this higher yet? Or do we need to hear more news about this variant, right? In which case, it could kind of chop sideways for a few days. They could give up the ghost and say, nope, don't like it. But when they bail out trades and it drops again, it could just continue up, right? Right? It could just continue up, because I think this market, I just don't think they cared that much about it. News can change so fast, guys. That's why we're not going to really spend any time looking at the news today. We're just going to look at the chart. What I was looking for today was a close above the 20-day moving average, okay? Close above the 20-day moving average shows me a little bit of strength. They sold off from the high. They didn't sell off below the 20-day moving average. They held it. So tomorrow morning, seeing whether or not we can get some more strength in there, or whether we see something more like what we saw back here, right? Which, if you notice this, it closed below the 20. Then what happened here? It closed above. Then it chopped sideways, and then it failed. So we'll see what happens here. Definitely watching. I don't trade on news, but if more talk about restrictions and things like that come into play, then you could see some more downside. However, I have heard that there is talk in the U.S. about no more lockdowns. So obviously, depending on where you live in the union, that could affect you differently. The overall market sentiment, however, is looking much more positive today based on that. Jeffrey says, howdy, 55 in clear skies in Colorado Springs. That's feels like what it is here, Jeffrey, except it's probably a little bit warmer than that here. Yeah, it's about 70 degrees, warmer than I thought. Miranda says, hey, Veronica, from Brooklyn again. As part of Market Tone, how and when is the best time to look at the S&P, since it moves just as much as stocks do? So when's the best time to be looking at the S&P? So I'm going to answer that question maybe in two ways. Okay, let me start here. I love the question, by the way. Thanks, Miranda. In fact, I'm going to put it up on the screen so folks out there can listen along and see that as well, so they know what your question is specifically. Okay, so keeping it on the daily question mark, see that in there? Yes, I'm going to keep it on the daily. For now, that's all I'm going to show is the daily. When to check the market? Well, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, number one, anytime I'm going to look to open a trade, first of all, I don't want to trade because I want to trade. Now, that might sound kind of peculiar, right? A trade isn't going to have an edge because I want it to. Oh, it's Thursday morning and I haven't traded in 6 trading days. And you know what? I'm thinking, I really want to trade today. I haven't traded, so I really should put my money to work and I should trade. Okay. Going out and forcing a trade based on that is not going to help, right? It's not going to help because there's not going to be good trades just because we want there to be. But it can mean I'm going to go look for a trade. I'm going to make sure that I'm connected to my trading business. I'm sharpening my plan. I'm practicing my skills. and I'm implementing them when I see the opportunities that the system has taught me how to use. How do I know how to use this system, Blair? It's in the Tradeway program, right? That's why I tell you guys about the program every week on here. We have memberships for you. We have our Step 1 Start Your Journey course on the Tradeway main page. We've got some special stuff added to the memberships I'll talk about a little bit later, because it's going to be very practical and connected to what it is that we're already talking about here. So let me get to that in a bit. But to your question, when I go to put those skills to practice, I'm going to look at market tone. So if it is Tuesday morning or Thursday morning, I'm going to check the market first thing. What is market tone to me? Right? You say, well, I don't really know yet, Blair. I'm still learning. Absolutely. That's why people are in the program. They have myself, Jeffrey, Jared, and others doing this with them, and in many cases for them, every single day. When you spend enough time around that, not only does that information help you make good trading decisions, but you learn how to make those for yourself. So when I say, what does the market look like to you? Tradeway coaches are always there to help you, right? Always there to answer questions and bring understanding and clarity to what's happening in the market. But you do start to get more of a sense of how clear is it to me. You guys have heard me before. I liken this to driving a car on the road conditions. So Jeffrey likes to tell us every time we're here together on Market Monday, what's the weather out in Colorado? Well, much like Jeffrey sharing the weather, okay, much like Jeffrey sharing the weather with us, you might take a look at the market and go, what's the temperature, right? Is it below zero or above zero, right? Is it clear? Is it foggy? Is it rainy? And I don't mean to be goofy with this metaphor, but I think it's helpful for a lot of people to think of it that way. In other words, how would I drive if I'm going to drive today? So I think that is a good and healthy way to look at market tone. How much risk am I willing to take in these conditions? If I go back to the market, you might say, Blair, it's totally possible. Let me go to the arrow. It's totally possible that it'll do this, isn't it? Yeah, let me get rid of that. Yes, of course it's possible. It's possible for anything to happen in the price. Okay, well, is it likely? Well, you could make an argument that it's likely. I think there's a couple ways to look at that. But for the sake of conversation here, you could say that that is possible. Well, if you watch the market in the morning and it begins to break above support here and it's showing that strength, my question is, okay, if you find a great pattern on a stock, it's at a buy point, you know where you're going to get in, you know where you're going to sell it, you know where you're going to stop out. If you have that in place, then you ask yourself, how clear are these road conditions to me and how much risk am I willing to take? Right? Because it's still got this line to contend with and it's looking a little sloppy. It's not as good as it was back here. I like these road conditions more than this. Right? So, excuse me, guys. That's what you have to ask yourself. Do I still need to decide how much risk I'm going to take? Then I need to look at market tone. Do I really understand whether the market is more likely to move up, meaning I should be looking, not guessing the direction, but should I be looking at long plays, meaning buying stock, buy low, sell high? Or should I be either sitting out or back to our options preview from last week? Maybe I should be looking at setting up some put options where I could potentially make money when the market moves down. Okay. If this market fails at the 10-day and at support and begins to drop back below the 20, do you say, I'd like to buy stock here? Probably not. You might say, I might look for some options in here. Okay, well, but Blair, I don't know how to trade options yet. Then you ought to jump into the program, learn how to trade options. We got month to month, cancel anytime, affordable options. You can get in, learn options. Awesome. So that doesn't have to hold you back. That's what I would say about market tone. Once you're in a play, and this might be part of what you're asking really, is that once you're in a play, How often should I be checking the market tone? Market tone is something that once I'm in a play, I'm not going to jump out of the play as soon as I see a down day on the market. Okay. But if I am in a play and the market hits resistance, for example, and begins to drop, then I need to know what to do to protect my position. Okay. That's something else that we teach in the program, because you're right. Market tone can change. Does that mean I have to change my position every time as soon as market tone changes, which can be very confusing, because you say, well, on Tuesday it was positive, so I got in a trade, but then on Wednesday it went down. Should I get out? Right? That doesn't have to be confusing. We just have to show you how to manage that, right? So I check it every day, right? I check it every day. So that's one of the things that we make very clear and make sure that you know how to do once we get in the program there. Okay. So I appreciate your question there, Miranda. Appreciate that very much. If we have any other questions on here, I will be sure to pick that up. So that is our market tone. That is our market tone for today. So here's what I want to say. So we talked about this. Gosh, I don't remember exactly. It's probably about 6 weeks ago now, maybe a month. We did some paper trading, and I want to do a refresher on here today. Okay. I want to do a refresher on here today. How can I paper trade, and what is paper trading? Most of us probably know what it is. For those of us that don't know what paper trading is right now, paper trading is essentially practicing your stock trading skills, okay, but not using any real money. And there are two main ways that we can do that. We do want to paper trade anytime we are building trust with ourselves, anytime we are practicing a new strategy. So if you've never stock traded before, guess what? You can learn how to do it. See how good at it you are, right? See where we can help you improve. Everybody's in a learning curve, right? But you can do it without risking any real money. That means you can get very, very important practice, but you don't have to risk any money, okay? Additionally, anytime you try a new strategy, we just talked about options twice. You say, well, options sounds pretty cool, but I don't know if I'm very confident in actually pushing that button. Well, hey, let's make it low stakes, right? Low stakes. Go in, paper trade the options, and then you can have that confidence to get into a new strategy. And anytime we learn a new strategy, I told you guys last week, there are option strategies. Man, it gives us a world of options, right? World of options. Because I could potentially make money when the stock goes up. I've also got a tool to help me make money when the stock goes down. And remember, I said the market could just chop sideways. Well, options gives me the ability to do a play in the market where that's what I want. I want the market to go sideways. It can go up. It can go sideways. It can even go down a little. And I could still make maximum profit on that position, right? I could. That's the potential of it. But I got to know how to trade options. How on earth am I going to have the confidence to do that? Don't risk any money. Paper trade. That's what we're talking about. 2 ways that I can do that. Okay. 2 ways. Number 1, this is what we did last time. We're going to come back to this in a little bit. Notice how I'm just moving my chart. Hit the arrow key on my charting software. I've used a couple of different kinds of charting software, and in my experience, it's all been the same. Just using the arrow keys will get you one day either to the left or to the right. And all we would do is go back in time on the S&P, and I can just move one day at a time. Now, the goal here would be to go far enough back, right, where I don't know really, I don't have much of an idea of what it is the market is doing at that point in time. I am going to look for a few things that we'll go through here, like pattern. We talk about pattern all the time on here. I want to have a pattern in the S&P. But I don't really want to know what's about to come, right? That helps. And then I'm just going to go up to my watch list, and it's loading here. And guess what? It's still back in time. right? This hasn't shot back to recent or to today's history. So I could just go ahead and go through like that. Okay, so that is one easy way. What's the benefit of this? Well, the benefit of this is that I can paper trade very quickly because I can literally, I don't have to wait a day, right? I can just go ahead and click it and we can practice that way. Okay, so that's one way to paper trade. Another way to paper trade is what we call virtual trading. Okay, virtual trading is just going in and I say going in, having a virtual trading account, right? A virtual trading account where you have a certain amount of essentially monopoly money. And the money is something that is just loaded into your account, maybe $40,000, $50,000, $100,000. You can usually set it to what you want. I mentioned this last time we paper traded. I think it's worth saying again today. It's nice to set it if you do virtual trade. It's nice to set it in a way that's at least close to what you would be trading with. Okay, making it a little bit more realistic mentally, other than throwing $1 million in your trading account on a virtual account and trading from that. So something close to what it is you're actually trading with. Now, of course, the reality to that is that you would wait, right? You would send in the trade just like we do in a normal trading account. And then if we traded today, we would have to sit and wait day by day for the virtual trade to happen, right? This is another level up in essence of practicing our trading. You go in, you're actually practicing pushing the buttons, choosing the stock or in the option if you're choosing options, so that we get used to what the mechanics of it are. Some of us have never traded options, right? So we want to know that we are doing it correctly. Some of us have never traded at all. We want to know that we're doing it correctly. What's an easy way to do that? Go in and paper trade and do it without any money at risk, right? So that's the big thing with paper trading. And it's a little bit more, of course, real time. So when it comes to patience, emotions that might rise, let's say we get into a paper trade tomorrow morning and we end up exiting on Friday, right? That's Tuesday to Friday. Well, that's Tuesday to Friday where we might be checking the position and might move up nicely, and we feel really good about that. At one point, it starts to pull back on us, and that makes us a little nervous. Even though there isn't money at risk, we want to know that we're seeing the stock do what we want it to do. So those are great aspects of doing that kind of paper trading. Okay, but it's not as fast, is it? It's not as fast because we can't just click left and right on the charting software. Now, where do we paper trade? If we want to do virtual trading, right? If we want to do virtual trading, or we want to do just the quick paper trading on the charting software. Well, oops, looks like it booted me off here because I opened two windows. Let me go ahead. There we go. I'm going to post a link in the chat right now. Okay. I'll talk about this more later, but I want you guys to have this as we're talking through here. This is access to our memberships. Okay. It is November 29th. On December 1st, Tradeway memberships are changing. I'm going to say this very quickly and we're going to keep moving. Number one, you get a ton of courses, strategies, options with our memberships. Okay, that is changing on December 1st. You won't get all the courses included. The prices are going up on December 1st. Right now is the lowest prices that we will ever offer on the memberships. And Blair, what does this have to do with paper trading? Suddenly you're talking about this. Paper trading, you need charting software and a virtual trading account. We are launching on December 1st, Charts by Tradeway. We have our own charting software and our own virtual trading platform coming out on December 1st. There's so many cool things that are in this new service. But one of the main ones is if you want and you're using Charts by Tradeway, you can actually share your paper trading results with us automatically. It will automatically journal them. And if you wanted to share it with me, you can automatically share the results so I could see that. I can walk through it with you. It's an amazing tool. Now, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to share any information with us, but it will give you the charts so you can go back and forth, and it'll give you a virtual trading platform. That is going to be included in the memberships. Everything changes on December 1st. That's just 2 days away, less than that, actually. So I wanted to make sure, take some time on Market Monday to get that to you, because we're talking about paper trading. That's pretty easy, right? So you can go in, you can set in the paper trading account what it is that you want to, the balance you want to have in there, and then you can go ahead and you can trade that. Okay. So that said, here's how I would paper trade. We're sitting on Amazon here. So first thing I would do, and this kind of goes back to Veronica's question, one thing I would do, and I told her I'd stay on the daily, but let's go ahead and go to the weekly for a second here. It's going to look real messy just for a sec. Oop, I got to get rid of that. Go back to that so I can actually grab the screen. Maybe move back to about here. If I were to blow this up, market was pretty nice in here, wasn't it? Right? Pretty consistently moving in here. Now, you say, well, I don't know if it's fair that we go back and paper trade at a time when we know that the market's going to do really well. Okay? I think there are two ways to look at that. Number one, first of all, remember this is a weekly chart here, so we're looking at a weekly. In this section here, there is some truth to that, and we want to try to be as realistic in this kind of paper trading. Remember, I talked about two kinds of paper trading. In this kind of paper trading, we want to be as realistic as possible. But remember, this is just practice, and we would be looking for positive market tone anyway. Meaning, we'd be looking for the market tone to be in a pattern, and we'd be looking for a bounce of support. That's what we would be waiting for anyway. So if we saw something consistent like this, that was coming into the 20-day and bouncing at support, would we know that that's going to happen? No, of course we wouldn't. And certainly we would want that. But it's the kind of thing we'd be looking for. You say, well, what about that? What if I had traded in here, right? Let me get rid of this box. In fact, you know what, guys? Down at the 50-day, it's not inside these lines because these lines come from this pattern, but down at the 50-day, that might not have been a bad example either. That might not have been bad. That's a nice clear bounce at the 50-day. So this is what I would do. I would find a spot on the S&P that has good market tone. Now let's go back to the daily chart. Okay, and there's all kinds of old lines on here. But that was at the 50 week. So now here we are on our chart. And unfortunately, this far back in time has got a lot of lines on it. So this day right here, right? This day right here, the market falls. We're going a little bit more advanced today, right? The market falls, but it's recovering back into the range. So even right here, let's take this day. Okay, so that's November 5th, 2020. Didn't go that far back. That's where I stopped. Okay, let's make sure we don't have any questions at this point. Okay, looks good. All right, so now we're coming back to here, and we're going to go, all right, let me go through my watch list. Okay, the order doesn't really matter, except that I'm going to change the last price and flip it over so that we're not starting with really high dollar stocks. Okay, I'm going to start maybe right about here. Shrink it down so I can see a little bit more data. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, shrink it down. Okay, so does that look like a stock we really want to trade? Not really. I apologize for this post thing being in the way. By the way, you're not going to see this charting software anymore when we're doing Market Monday from here on out, because we're going to launch Charts by Tradeway. So you're going to see me using Charts by Tradeway from now on. Okay, so moving down, I just go through my watch list and do what? Look for a pattern. Okay, I have to resize some of these. Now, does that look good for a buying stock? Right? No, it's in a pattern, but the pattern's moving down. Now, if I go sideways and it moves above, right, then I can look at some options. But it doesn't. It does exactly what we would expect this pattern to do. Okay? Hits resistance, drops. If you knew how to trade a put option, you might have been interested in that stock on that day. Not because you knew the future, right? But because boom, boom, boom. It all hit resistance and it dropped. It's a really clean downtrend. Okay, we're going to teach that more extensively in the course, right? So I just keep going. Okay. Here's one that had an IPO more recently. Oh, no, it actually just took a second for it to load. Okay. And I'm just looking for a pattern. Here's something that if I go ahead and remove these old drawings, right, I can definitely see a little bit of price support right around this area right here, right around $2. Let's just go ahead and pop that in. Oh, right there, a little bit high, I'd drop that down a tiny bit, and then I'd put another one in right about there. And I might just wait. Oh, I got to click on the chart again. Right? And see, this is why you guys have seen me. I like to draw trading lines. Support and resistance is not just a specific price point all the time. It's a zone. It's an area. See how all these guys are crunched down in here? See how these come down, but they don't totally get down to the bottom line. Now, I want that bottom line because this came down that far. This came down. This came down. This did. These did. But these didn't. Okay? So I can add that on there for a little bit of a buffer. That would have helped us see that right there, right? So just a little bit of tutorial there on identifying patterns. Again, something we practice extensively in the program. Okay. And by the way, I've worked with students before. They say, you know, Blair, I went through my charts today and I just didn't see any trades. And we're just talking just stock trades here. Okay. Just stock trades. Am I doing something wrong? And I'm going, well, I mean, maybe, but not necessarily. Right? Just because I don't find something right away doesn't mean there's something wrong with my skill set. Okay. I'm looking for great trades. I'm looking for great patterns. And that means that some days I go looking at the markets and I go, I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm not 100% sure why all my charts are looking so blown up, though. I will say that. Okay. So again, this is what I'm doing. I'm going and looking through. Now I'll make this comment. Okay. A lot of these lower dollar stocks, you know, you're noticing here is a lot of them have really crummy charts, right? They're lower dollar in many, not all, but in many cases. Why? Because the stock is getting killed. Now, that's not true. Here's an example. This one's moving up. I mean, this is a Deutsche Bank. This is a big bank. But we have to be careful when we're looking for cheaper stocks just because we want to be able to buy more shares. We have to make sure that the stock is actually a good stock. So if we flip this scenario a little bit, we go to the top. Now we're looking at stocks that are way more expensive now, okay? But a lot of times, some of the better stocks and the better patterns and the better liquidity on these stocks is found in some of these higher dollar stocks, which we simply then move to our skill set and options. Okay. So here, I would look at this right here and I would go, Let's put the trading lines there. Now, is that ready to go right now? No, that's a big candlestick down. I don't like that. It's very likely that the next day it breaks below it. But let's go ahead and watch. Let's go ahead and see what happens the next day. Because it could go up, right? It doesn't. It breaks it. And then it recovers, right? So what if we wanted to trade this stock? All right, let's say we had market tone and we decided we want to trade this stock, okay? There's a few major things that we need to go through. Now you say, Blair, this is a $1,500, $1,600 stock. True. We would want to look for some lower dollar stocks. We would want to look to trade options or some of our other option strategies so that we were not paying $1,567 a share. You say, Blair, you could trade this stock but not pay $1,500 a share? Yes, I could. I talked about that last week when we taught about options. But here we are at a support level. It's been using. This isn't the greatest pattern, in my opinion. There's one key reason why, and I'm going to tell you guys what it is. It tried to make it back to resistance here and did not do so. I don't love that, but we're going to go ahead. We're going to try it because this is paper trading. We can practice. I've got to know, where am I going to buy it? Where am I going to sell it? Where am I going to stop it out? So if we were going to trade this stock, we're going to put our stop out just for time's sake, ease. We're going to put it right there. Okay, we're going to put it right. In fact, I'm going to do something here just so it's nice and easy for your folks at home. Let's go to the settings. Let's change the color. We can see it. In fact, you know what? We're going to make it red because that's going to be our stop out. This guy right here, we're going to make this guy green. Some people wouldn't like that. It might be a little bit more emotional putting colors like that on it. We're just going to go right to even the just below resistance there, okay? So our stop out, let's say, is at 860. Our sell point is at 1086. These are big numbers, I realize. And our buy point, we're going to make our buy point same color here. We're going to make it somewhat fair for the day, about 920. So here's all you would do, okay? You would literally write this down on a piece of paper right beside your computer. I bought, right? Shopify. Shop, right? I bought X amount of shares. You say, well, I'm only going to buy one share today, Blair. That's fine by me. If you wanted to paper trade options like this, you can as well. You just have to know how to go and look at the options prices. Obviously, that's something we're going to teach you how to do. That said, we want to know, how many shares are we going to buy? Where are we going to stop out? We already decided that. Put a line on the chart. You'd write that down. You'd go ahead and write down your sell point. Even if it's visualized on the chart the way I've done it, go ahead and write it down or put it in a voice, or not a voice note, a note on your phone, wherever you do a record keeping, any record keeping. It's just so you have that habit in place. I think that's good. I don't do that every time. Going to be honest, I don't do it every time, but I still think it's a good thing to do, to actually write it down. In fact, the last paper trade that I did do, and some trades I did with the Insider Plus students, I wrote them down. Okay. So that said, then you do what? You just go to the next day, right? I'm going to have to, that was anticlimactic. Let's go to the next day and see if this guy's going to keep going up. Okay, so it hits the moving averages. We're still above our buy point, but it's moving down. Okay, moving down from there. And this trade is going to work where it's going to stop out. It's not abnormal for it to stop out. Okay, and this is a paper trade. We could have fished and hunted a little longer. And I would gather that if we'd hunted for another, maybe 10, 15 minutes on here tonight, we'd have probably found a better opportunity than this, right? A nice uptrending stock or something like that. But this is still great practice. So here we go. The next day, back down to support. So we have not broken support. So we're going to stick with it here. Okay, we gapped down, but we moved up on the day. So it's trying to hold on, right? So what do we got here? Well, I'm noticing we made a high, we made a lower high, we made a lower high, and now we've made another lower high. Not a great sign for our trade, okay? But we've also jumped in We've started to get some practice, and it's still holding at support, right? Now, let me make a note here. Let's say we did go through our whole list and we really did like this trade, right? And this was something we wanted to do, and we're paper trading it, practicing. It's not just that paper trading is let's see if I win or let's see if I don't win money, right? Make money. Because no stock trader, no matter how good they are, can avoid losing money, right? We can minimize, and we have to, but we can't eliminate every loss. What's important to notice here as we paper trade, especially if we do some virtual trading, right, is that, as this thing chops sideways, when there's real money in there, you and I, we just might get quite emotional. Now, is anybody out there thought to themselves, I'd be out of this stock already, right? Why? Because it pulled back. You say, I want to get out. I want to get out. Now, you might say right now, like we haven't looked at the next day yet, you might say, I want to get out right now. And if it drops, you're going to say, oh, I'm so glad I got out. But if it goes up, you're going to go, oh man, why did I get out, right? This is why it's so important to follow the plan. So important to follow the plan that we have. Where are we going to sell? Where are we going to buy? Where are we going to stop out? So let's go ahead and just let this thing run. We're having fun here, seeing what the stock is doing. And it's at support again. And now it's finding some support there, a little bit. Those moving averages are creating a little bit of weight on top. We'll see what happens next. Get a gap up the next day. Now, where are we at? 966. We bought at 921. We're up about $45 a share now. It's a $1,500 stock, so that's not a whole lot, right? But we're up, right? We're making some money on this play. It's doing what we'd hoped it was going to do based on the support line that we identified, right? I'd also notice that back here, it did kind of chop sideways a bit at support. Don't love that, but it did hold, okay? So here we go. Next day up. Okay, still moving. Now, who, at this point, I would ask, who's going to sell? Who wants to stay in the trade? Who wants to get out of the trade, right? We identified a sell point up here. Okay, now there are some things I mentioned earlier we're going to teach you on what if it doesn't go all the way up? What if market tone changes? Let us teach you some of the things that you can do so that if you're in a trade just like this, just like I'm showing you right now, we can make sure that you know what to do so that you don't give this all back to the market if something does change, right? So you can decide before you hit the button, am I in? Am I out? Okay. And here we go. Next day. Okay. Sideways. Not much movement, right? Pretty flat, a little bit of selling. Okay. 3 days up, got a red candlestick. There we are, right? So you decide, am I in or am I out? And starting to pull back a little bit more, right? Down on the day. I wonder how many of us feel emotional doing this, even if there's not money on the line, right? And then boom. So, you go up to here, you hit this high, you pull back for 2 days. It might be easy to think, oh, I would never get out there. But sometimes we do. We get out. We get out of the trade. I did not look at this trade prior, right? I didn't look at this trade beforehand. I just showed you the process that we go through to find a paper trade. What is it doing? Moving up. Okay, it's moving up. So now we're at 1074. So one of the things we could do here is our stop out is down here. I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to move it up. Right? I'm going to lock in just over break even from there and not risk my money going all the way down. Right? I don't want a winner to turn into a loser. So I'm ready to move to the next day now. Okay, now we've reached this previous, it's hard to see because that number is popping up there, but we've reached that previous high. And so for me, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move this guy even up a little bit more, just below the moving averages there. And I'm ready to hit the next day. And boom, there you have it, folks. We just hit our sell point, 1090. Here's what I have to ask. Who's in the trade? Who's out of the trade at 1090? Well, there's a couple of things that you and I can do here as well. Our brokerage accounts help us to do this. where we can actually stay in the trade as long as it's moving up, but automatically get kicked out of the trade if it ever moves down. Click on that tradeway.com goals link. If you even want to jump into our stock trading level, it's Insider Plus membership. It's right there inside that link that I shared with you guys. It's in the comments, Facebook, YouTube. I'll drop it for you one more time. It can teach you the things I'm talking about right here. We're going to go into this. We're going to do it practically. I've got webinars with that group every single week. We talk about things in there that we don't talk about here on Market Monday, as well as you can get the training for options. Remember what I said earlier? Is that the courses that teach the options that are included in the memberships, and the memberships are discounted, that is going away. The price is going to go up, and those courses are going to be removed from the memberships, where it's going to be support. You're going to get access to coaches in some of our programs, but it's not going to have all those training courses. Okay, so that's going to change. All that to say, it's a tremendous opportunity for those of you that want to learn how to stock trade, for those of us that don't want to grind it out on our own anymore, for those of us that don't want to pay the market because we made mistakes. Miranda just popped in the comments here, said, forgot about moving stops. Ingenious. That's what I thought when somebody taught me. I didn't make that up. Somebody taught me. Time compression. Why not use somebody else's mistakes? Why not use David Mitchell's 40 years of experience? Why not use somebody else's process, right? Why not fast track you and your trading? Get rid of the headache. Get rid of the challenges that we don't understand because somebody else has already walked through it. So that's a big part of it. Last thing to say, if you're still in the trade, let's go back and just see what happens from here now that we're getting pretty darn close to resistance. Starts to pull back, right? Some of us may have stayed in because we wondered if it was going to keep going. Now we're giving some of that profit back, okay? Still holding on, but not advancing. Tried, right? We hit that top resistance line. So if we'd waited for that, then we went to max target. We went to that resistance line. And from there, we just keep going to see where it goes. And it does kind of chop, and then off we go. Boom. Starts to trend, okay? So there you go, guys. There's some paper trading. I'm going to go ahead and actually cancel that. I can just go back here and just do this. That's our paper trading for tonight. That's our paper trading. And, I'd say it went pretty well, right? Not my favorite. Notice how even my opinion there, right? It was not my favorite. And there was a technical objective reason to say that. It wasn't just my opinion in the sense of an emotion or an inclination. There was some weakness on the chart, but a pattern. There was a good pattern present, clear support. So we went ahead, we set up our parameters, and we walked through the trade. Jeffrey says, we went past the 45-minute mark. We did. We did tonight, and we tend to do that when we're paper trading. One last thought. Jeffrey says, a lot of news, Twitter news today. I see. I don't quite know what you mean by that, Jeffrey, but okay. Thanks. All right, everybody. I'm going to leave it at that. Paper trading, if you're interested in options, back to last week. If you want to learn how to trade options, get into one of the memberships. Use our virtual trading and our charting software. Click on the link there. You can open that up if you have any questions about that, what we talked about today, anything else here on Market Monday. Of course, my name is Blair Nightingale. This is Market Monday. You can email us support@tradeway.com. Support@tradeway.com. Care of Market Monday. The team will send that over to me. I'll make sure to get you guys taken care of. We have an amazing team here at Tradeway. They work very hard to help you guys get an absolutely phenomenal experience. And I hope to continue to see that. And if we hear from you guys, I believe that's what you're going to get. Okay, guys, thanks so much for being on here. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Good night.